In this video, I will walk through some tips for working with multiple data sources in SAS Visual Analytics. I will cover how to add data sources to a SAS Visual Analytics report, the easiest way to assign data roles to an object, how to configure a prompt control object for multiple data sources, how to combine data sources using a report-level data join, and how to add a header or footer with information for multiple data sources. Let's get started with the demonstration. I will be using SAS Visual Analytics 2020.1 for the hands-on portion of this video, but the same techniques can be used for early releases, including 7.4 and up, and starting in the 8.3 releases, the data join becomes available. Let's start with the SAS Visual Analytics VA report and walk through how you can add additional data sources. From the Data menu, you can select Add Data, and for this example, we are going to add the North data source. You can select the data source and click OK. You can also use the drop-down menu and select Add Data, and this time we will add the East data source. You can double-click on it and add it to the report. Here you can see we have 3 data sources added to this Visual Analytics report. Megacorp is the parent table that includes all 4 regions, but I've separated them out for this video, and we are going to be using the North and East region. Next, I want to offer some tips on the easiest way to assign data roles to report objects when you have multiple data sources assigned to a VA report. Let's go ahead and add some objects to our report. The first 2 objects I'm going to add are key value objects. Drag and drop it onto the report canvas. And then I'm going to add some list tables. Let's go ahead and toggle back to our data sources. This particular East data source has day, but in order to make this easier, I want to actually have a year category. So I'm going to duplicate this data item and add it as a year. You'll see why I add East. You don't have to, but for this demonstration, I just want to make it very clear where the year is coming from. And the same thing for North. Going to duplicate the day and assign it a year format. Okay. On this left-hand side, we are going to have the key value in the list table be pulling from the North data source. And then on the right-hand side, we'll have it pull from the East data source. So the very first thing you want to do is first select the target object and make sure you have the right data source selected. We're going to use the Assign Data button. And in this case, we are going to select Facility Region and Profit and close. And then down here for the list table, again, select the target object, make sure we have the correct data source highlighted. And for these columns, we're going to select year, facility region, product line, and profit. And we can close. Okay. Now we want to assign the right 2 objects from the East data source. So first we're going to select our key value object and make sure we have the East data source selected. And here I'm going to use the roles pane. For the category, we're going to select facility region, and for the measure, we're going to select profit. For the list table, select our target object, make sure we have the correct data source selected, and again, I'm going to use the roles pane to select year, facility region, product line, and profit. For these 2 list tables down at the bottom to help with our future example, I'm going to go ahead and turn on the totals and format the background and font text, and same thing for the North list table. Now let's talk about how we can define a prompt control object to filter multiple data sources. We can see that we have several years worth of data in the North and the East data sources. Let's go ahead and select Megacorp as our source data source to filter both North and East region. So with our Megacorp data source selected, let's go ahead and drag year into an auto chart for a page prompt area. Instead of a slider, I would like to change this to a button bar. And as this button bar is in the page prompt area, that means every object on the page with a mapping defined will be filtered by this selected value. In order to make it easier to see which value is selected, I'm going to go ahead and, in the options pane for the button bar, change the background selection color and the selected text color. And you can see as I click through these values, nothing is happening. Nothing is being filtered in the North or the East data sources. And this is because we're sourcing the button bar with the Megacorp data source. So we will need to define a mapping between the Megacorp data sources and the North and the East data sources. We could right-click on the button bar and select Edit Data Mappings, or we can use the Data menu. With the Megacorp data source highlighted and use the Data menu, we can select Map Data. And here you can see we are selecting to choose to map data between the Megacorp data source and North and Megacorp data source and East. So let's go ahead and enable data mapping. For Megacorp, the first value is selected as year. And for the North data source, our target will be that new year North column that I duplicated that we saw earlier. If we had additional columns that we wanted to map, facility region or product line, you could add those mapping criteria here if you had more prompt controls added to your report. But we're not going to do that here. We're just going to have year as our prompt control. For the Megacorp and the East data mapping, again, we're going to do Megacorp year, and East, we're going to pick the year East, and we're going to click OK. Now you can see that filter was instantly applied. So here this button bar is being sourced by Megacorp, and it's filtering both the North and the East data sources with that defined mapping. Now let's talk about how we can combine data using a report level data join. Let's say we want to combine the North and the East data into one object. This might be for any of the available objects, but in this case, we want this either for a list table or a crosstab. We know that none of the rows in the North data source will match the rows in the East data source, as we've completely separated the data by facility region. Therefore, the result of the data join that we can expect will be sparse. Remember, this is a data join and not an append. So let's go ahead and select the North data source. Using the data menu, we will use new data from join. It's fine to leave the name of the result as data join. And the join type we want a full join. We want all of the rows from the North data source and all of the rows from the East data source. The join condition, you will want to join on any categorical data column that you will be using in the report. So in this case, we want year. Our list table will also contain facility region. And we will also include product line. Now we know facility region will not match up on anything since we have completely separated the North data source from the East data source. The next thing we need to do for this data join is select our columns. And in this case, we're going to bring over year, facility region, product line, and profit. And we'll click OK. And we'll go ahead and run that data join. Here you can see the data join is automatically added to the report. And at the end, I'll link out to my blog that goes into further detail about the pros and cons when using a report level data join. But this join result is only available for this particular report, and the join is performed every time the report is opened for every user. All right, so let's go ahead and add that list table and check out the results of our data join. So from the objects pane, I'll go ahead and drag a list table to the bottom. I'll select my target object, and then I'll make sure that the data join is selected. For the assigned data, I just want to take a look at everything. So take a look at year, take a look at facility region, product line, and profit. Go ahead and close that. To make it easier to see which region is which, I'll go ahead and add a little bit more description behind each of the north sourced data columns. I'll do that for product line as well, and also for profit. Okay. Let's go ahead and add the totals to this list table so we can verify the numbers coming back match up. Again, just adjust the background color and the text to make it easier to see. So here we have our sparse data, and this isn't exactly what we want. We want to go ahead and tidy this up so that we only have one column from year, one column for facility region, one for product line, and one for profit. We can do this with a custom calculation. So let's go ahead and create a new data item, and we'll do this for year. So we'll go ahead and give it a name. And in the operators, we're going to use a Boolean expression and check for missing. And here, we're going to check to see if year east is missing, then return the north value. Otherwise, return the east value. And when I drop year into this if then else expression, the result type is automatically selected for me as a date, but we just want it to be with a year format. So we'll go ahead and define that and click OK. So that way, if east is missing, we want to go ahead and use the north value so that everything becomes only one column for year. We're going to do the same calculation for facility region. So let's go ahead and say new data item, new calculated item, and this is for facility region. Calculated column, just so that you guys can follow what's happening when I display these things. Going to use our if then else expression. Again, we're going to check for missing. And in our data items for facility region, if east is missing, return the north value. Otherwise, return the east value. Result type is automatically defined as character. We'll click OK. We weren't able to duplicate the year because its end result is a date format. But with this being a returned character, we can duplicate this and we can edit it for product line. So this will be our product line. And in our data items, we are going to say if product line, so I'm just replacing it, return north, otherwise return product line east, and click OK. And then we'll do the same thing for profit. We won't be able to duplicate any of those calculated items since they don't match our result type. So do a quick add our if expression. Our missing condition data item will be for profit. If profit is missing, return north, else return east. Again, automatic result type here for us. Let's go ahead and give it a name. click OK. All right, so let's check out these new columns. So to do that, I'm going to add a new list table to the report. I have my list table selected. With the multiple data sources, I want to make sure I'm using the data join. I'm going to use the roles pane this time. And here I want to use year. I want to use facility region, product line, and profit. And click OK. And here we can see I've gone ahead and gotten rid of that sparse missing. Everything is looking good. I want to verify that the sum for north and the sum for east are matching up correctly. Here we can see that we still have data for all of the years. So we're going to have to go ahead and map our year column in order to look and compare basically apples to apples. So in order to do that, let's go ahead and define our mapping for that. So I'm first going to click, you noticed I first clicked on the target object that I want to work with. I could come over here and I could have selected Megacorp and then gone into the map data, but since I know I want this target object to filter this particular list table, that's why I selected it first. So right-clicking on the button bar, selecting Edit Data Mappings, I'm going to go ahead and enable the data mapping for Megacorp and the data join result. Megacorp, I want it to map year to, and then this is why I added those additional information out here so you could see. So we don't want it to map to we don't want to map to either the year east or the year north. We want it to map to the single year column, and we'll click OK. And now here we have 2020 selected. So by default, since this is a calculated column for the result join, we can see that it also correctly filters over here. So now let me turn on totals for this particular list table. And here we can see that this is all in one. So here when we have it separated, we can see that for east, we're getting the correct result and for north, but obviously we don't have these combined into our one data column. Here we do have it combined, so how can we check? It'll be easier if we convert this over to a crosstab. So I'm using the overflow menu for the list table, select change list table to, and pick crosstab. Here I'm just gonna move that over so we can see easier. And for the crosstab, I'm going to turn on totals and subtotals. So for those subtotals, they should match up. So again, just going to format this, place it after. And for the final total, we'll just give it purple, a little bit different. So now in our one single crosstab, we have multiple data sources. We have the north and the east region. And here we can see that our calculated column that's bringing our sparse data join result all together in one very nice looking object. And we can see that for east, our total is matching at 430,000. And for our north, you can have the 1.5. And then we have our total for the entire east and north object. Again, use the description links below for additional information on using a report level data join for the pros and cons and additional examples of how you could use this in your visual analytics report. Okay, the final piece I want to talk about is using the text object to serve as footer information for your multiple data sources. So here we have a report with multiple data sources, and many people want to know when was that data source last updated. So that's what we'll do now. I'll go ahead and expand the Objects tab. And to do this, we're going to use the text object. So in this report, we have 3 data sources. So, well, 4 now with the data join. So I'm just going to drop this down, these 3 different text objects. Again, recall that an individual object can only be sourced by one data source. So how are we going to get a footer down here to look relatively decent? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at our north data source, our east data source, and then we'll try to get some information about our data join down here. So select our target object. And now we're going to select our data source that we want to source the object. We're going to select north. And then you double click on the text object, and then you'll have a menu come up of things of how you want to, what you want to add. In this case, we have date modified time, or we could even do interactive filters. In this case, I want to add the date modified time. I see this would just throw out a timestamp. So let's go ahead and qualify this with a description. And this is for the north data source. Let's say updated at, and let's just give this color coordination. We'll give this one light blue and click away. So here we can see the north data was updated Monday, March 15th. Now let's do this for the east region. So again, select our target object. We need to change our data source that we want to feed this object. Double click on it. Again, for this one, let's add the table modified time again for the east data updated at. And for this one, let's make it green. And we can see that it has a different timestamp. North was last updated at March 15th. East was last updated at March 22nd. And for this one, let's go ahead and select our target object and do the data join. So the data join is going to give you the last modified timestamp of the most recent data source added. So in this case, it would give us March 22nd. But let's check out what the interactive filters gives us. So we'll just go ahead and put this. And color that the purple we've been using, and click away to see what that results. So let's go ahead and take a look what this footer would look like. So here we have our north data information, our east data, and then we have any applied filters down here. We can see that 2020 is selected. So that's what is populated down there in that interactive filter. Here when I select 2019, we can see that updates, or 2021. For more information, please refer to the SAS Visual Analytics documentation or check out one of my other videos or blogs. Thank you, and check back with the Technical Insights and Expertise series for additional tips.